Hi, welcome back to the channel. My name's Rebecca. I'm 44 years old and I used to suffer from multiple sclerosis, but I no longer experience any of the symptoms since starting the carnivore diet 2 years ago. In today's video, I wanted to talk about the things that I wish I had known when I was first diagnosed with MS. So if you're watching and you've been recently diagnosed, this video is for you. I was diagnosed back in 2016 and it was on the basis of a nerve failure in my eye, which they gave me an MRI scan and found demyelination, and then the symptoms set in and I became very ill with very disabling symptoms, and a further MRI scan showed further activity, and the diagnosis happened after 8 months of tests. So I know just how terrifying that moment is when suddenly your life takes a completely different turn and you're facing an unknown future and you just feel completely lost at sea. It's funny because at the very beginning, if you'd have told me that I was going to end up in this place now, which is in full health and thriving, no active lesions on my brain, no symptoms, not on any medication, restarting my life, restarting my work life, my social life, I just don't know if I would have believed you. So what I very much want to do is to help people who are newly diagnosed to see things in a different way, because it can really become overwhelming. The black cloud can just envelop you, and the dark tunnel that you go down just seems like it's forever and very, very frightening. So when I think about what I wish I had known at the very beginning when I was first diagnosed, first thing is that you are not your diagnosis. The mental identity shift can be completely overwhelming. You have a completely different relationship with your body, with the life you were living, with your relationships. Everything changes. The impact is hard to overstate. You couldn't be feeling more vulnerable. That label that comes along can just suddenly define everything about your life. There was a point about 1.5 years in when I had a very strange experience, which was that I realized that I had experienced so much loss because of the loss of my health and the knock-on effect of the loss of my health on my relationships and on my professional life and on my identity. I just felt like I couldn't have lost more, and yet I just had this very clear feeling one day that I was still me. And it was such a simple, fleeting moment, but it was very profound and very impactful. I realized that the scenery of my life, if you like, didn't make me me. I was still me, even though the scenery had been completely dismantled and taken away and the show was over. But I was still me. There was something in the middle of all this loss and all this misery and all this fear that was absolutely me. And I can only imagine that that was my soul, that hadn't been touched at all by everything else that was going on. And that me is the me that has come through and begun to grow again. It's like if you prune a tree or a beautiful bush of flowers all the way back down, and it's unrecognizable, but you're doing the best thing you could actually do for that plant and it will grow again, perhaps even more beautiful, more healthy. So you are not your diagnosis. You are more than the sum total of the life that you were living. That may change, that may have to adapt. I don't know what the course of your disease will be. Maybe you won't experience loss on the same scale that I did if you have adequate support around you, if the course of your disease is quite mild. There's lots of hope there as well. But even if you pass through some very, very difficult times, you are still you and you will always be you. So that's my first thing to say. You are more than this diagnosis. The second thing I want to say is that doctors don't know everything. Doctors do not know what causes MS or how to cure it. Bear that in mind. You are the ultimate authority on your own body. You will hear 1,000 theories about MS on this journey. You will be told this or that smoothie or supplement or exercise can cure you. You will be told this is what causes MS. It's a parasite, it's a virus, it's genetics, but nobody actually knows what causes MS and nobody actually knows how to get rid of it. So I think that gives you license to forge your own healing path through this disease. If you can even call it a disease, because we don't really understand the nature of it. I don't want to bash medicine. What I do think is that healing can include so much more than what you are prescribed by the medical establishment. And it can include things like diet, mindset, and lifestyle. And that's precisely how I have ended up approaching multiple sclerosis. I started off rabbit in the headlights, following all of the things I was told I should do. I injected Copaxone for a year, which was extremely traumatizing, and I've still got scars from that. And I changed my diet early on, but that didn't actually help me. But when I changed to the carnivore diet, that really did help me. So I've learned a lot about diet on this journey, but as well as diet, I also changed my lifestyle, and I think that's been just as important. I moved up a mountain in Spain and started living closer to nature in the sunshine, trying to remove myself from toxicity and stress in all of its different forms. I've had a lot of challenges on this journey, but I've always tried to keep a mindset of ultimately strength. I've been in survival mode for many, many years, but that mindset of sort of trying to walk my own path with it and seeing the positive results has kept me going. So I think diet, mindset, and lifestyle are absolutely key, and they are within your control. Like I say, I don't want to say that you shouldn't listen to the doctors. You absolutely can if you wish. Take the medication if you wish, but I wouldn't approach them from a place of powerlessness or assume that they know how to get you through this. Medicine and science are changing all the time on the basis of new information, new evidence, and a lot of it is often driven by profit. So yeah, don't assume that they're going to save you. Don't assume that they know how to save you, or that you can't necessarily claim body sovereignty and walk your own path. So connected to that, the third thing is that you have more control than you think. I know exactly how it feels when you're first given a diagnosis like multiple sclerosis. The thing that you lose is control. It's that sense of control over your life when your health is an unknown and it's fluctuating, and you're potentially facing a future in a wheelchair. That's frightening. And to be told that it's degenerative and it's progressive and you don't know when the next relapse is going to strike. You know, you might wake up in the morning one day and your arms won't work or your legs won't work, and you're going to have these fluctuating symptoms for the rest of your life, and there's no medication that you can take for these symptoms. I have been able to control my symptoms, and by the looks of things, I've also been able to control the disease activity in my brain. Now, many people may say, no, it's just coincidence, it's got nothing to do with the decisions that you made and the changes that you made, but I would dispute that. And I know what I've experienced, I know the journey I've been on, the situation that I was in, and how I changed that situation and had consistently improving results since then. And I'm not the only one. There's plenty of other people out there. Look at, for example, Diane Ladd, Boston Carnivore. She's had exactly the same results as me from changing to the carnivore diet. So think about your diet as a foundational issue. Personally, I would always advocate the carnivore diet because I saw such incredible changes on it. But I would also say, you know, there's other things you can control. Stress, environment, you know, your exposure to toxins, your sunlight exposure, things like that. There are plenty of things that you can optimize your health by taking control of these different aspects of human existence. I would say experiment with those things. Don't feel powerless. I would say be curious about other people who have experienced changes, and you know, there's nothing to lose in experimenting with similar changes in your own life. Another thing I would say is that progress is not linear. This is really important because for me, it's been a 10-year journey and it has not been easy. It's been far from easy, and I've had ups and downs. And I've been, you know, at my lowest, I've been absolutely lost. But right now in my life, I do not feel lost. I don't even feel ill. I feel absolutely healthy. And I'm so blessed to be able to say that, and I very much want that for other people. But it has been, if you've been following my channel over the past 2 years, you will know that I have not always had an easy ride of it. Far from it. Because the impact of a chronic illness like that on your life can be so devastating, and it can change you as a person and structurally weaken you in ways that prevent you from progressing in your life even when you have made progress in some areas, other areas you still need to make progress on, and it can be sort of a bit chaotic, and there are certain steps which are foundational, but beyond that you're still going to have a healing journey which may last the rest of your life, but you will also learn so much from that healing journey, and the wisdom you will gain from it is worth every single step of that journey. There's been times when I doubted that I would ever get through the way my life has gone and the impact that the disease had on my life, but every single day as I live my life as a healthy person at the moment, and not thinking about MS, it's just not part of my life. It's not part of my thoughts. And the setbacks that I've had, I've been able to find that resilience and keep walking forwards. So yeah, I think just bear that in mind. Bear in mind that you might feel like you haven't progressed on one day, but actually if you look back over the pattern of 6 months or a year or 2, you can then see how that progress has actually been very clear, you know. So zoom out and keep the bigger picture in mind. And linked to that, I would say healing is possible even if you're told otherwise. I think it's really important to hold on to hope while staying grounded in your truth, in your bodily experience. I'm not going to sit here and say, woo, MS, no problem. It's a challenge. It's a challenge. It's a challenge for anybody. But healing is still possible. What you don't want is to listen to the people around, and that might include your medical professionals, who are telling you, look, you've just got to get used to this disease, this new life. You've just got to learn to live with it. You know, that's quite a negative prognosis to be given. And I haven't experienced it that way. I haven't experienced MS as something that ended my life. In fact, in some ways, I'm grateful it happened, because it's given me, ultimately, as I've moved towards healing, it's given me so much more perspective, so much more resilience. I feel like I've been fighting the good fight. I don't take things for granted. I've gained a lot of empathy and a lot of wisdom. I don't think at this point I would change what happened. But if you'd have told me this years ago, I wouldn't have believed you. I was on a downward slope, and I would have struggled to believe you. But I am evidence that healing is possible, and there are plenty of other people out there who are further evidence to that. So it's possible. You may well be told otherwise, but that hasn't been my experience. So what would I do differently from day one? To be perfectly honest, I would go carnivore. That's not to say that I think it's the only aspect of a healing journey that matters. I think lots of things come into play on a healing journey, but I do think that diet is foundational. And in my experience, the diet I chose initially, the OMS diet, didn't really make much difference. However, the carnivore diet made an immediate difference. I'm not saying it's necessarily going to happen the same way for everybody or at the same rate. It depends on many variables. But that's what I would do differently. If I could go back in 2016 to the me that was lost and frightened and wondering what on earth I could do, I would say go carnivore. And I would also say move up a mountain in Spain, because that is what I did, but it took me a few years to go ahead and do that. I would have done that immediately. I would have immediately moved to the country and gone carnivore. But that, you know, I'm just saying what I did. I hold up my example, my case, to hopefully give you hope that whatever decisions you make, which may be inspired by the carnivore community or may not be, but whatever decisions you make, you do have control in this situation, and you are still you. You do not have to put yourself in the hands of a profiteering medical industry in order to manage your symptoms. You may get to a place where you're able to get rid of those symptoms in the first place. That's exactly what I've been able to do. So yes, and you may have people saying to you, oh, don't listen to these fad diets. I would say that's fine. Don't listen to everybody on the internet. Listen to yourself. Listen to your body. That's what I would say. And try to remain optimistic. Try to remain positive. Healing is possible. Okay, so if you are newly diagnosed, also do feel free to reach out to me. I'm very, very happy to have a one-on-one discussion with you about your specific situation, because everybody's situation is different and everybody's progress is different. But listen, you're not alone, okay? Take care, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.